and/or associates.
Lisa and Robin are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robin on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robin on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can always watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live as well as YouTube. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning. It is a beautiful summer day.
It is, and it is pre-4th of July weekend.
Yes, it is. And I didn't even look up to see where there's fireworks this weekend. Since Friday is on a fireworks
day,
on a weekend day, are they going to do them tonight somewhere?
I don't know.
I mean, I keep thinking
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
I'm sure many places will do them. Google.
My weeks are so messed up. What day is it?
Today. So what's interesting is we just had some family birthday parties, and there's a very special birthday today to our very special big guy. And I have 3 family birthdays within like a week. And then my father-in-law was like a few days before that. So I feel like I'm birthday crunch. And one of the people who turned 80 yesterday said, "Oh, the years speed up the older you get," and I do feel that.
I do too. I do.
It's July 3rd. How did that happen?
I know. It's like we wait and wait and wait, especially in New England. I feel like we just wait for that sunshine and that summer weather to come, and it's like, oh man, it's
Slow down.
It's slipping through your fingers.
And I was thinking, what is, birthdays, and then I was thinking, gosh, it feels like a lifetime ago, but also yesterday that I was 21.
Yes. Well, even my kids and I just said to them, time flies. The older you get, the faster it goes. And a couple weeks ago, my daughter was saying to me, and she's like, "Wow, I can't believe." So her boyfriend's daughter, that's not right, sister. They met when she was 5, and now she's getting ready to do getting ready for her learner's permit and stuff. And she's like, "Wow, I can't believe it." So she actually already at 23 has this like, wow, how fast is it moving?
Yeah, and I think generationally, time moves faster now because there's no downtime.
No.
So when we were, just take 21 years ago, so if someone's, born today, or that math doesn't make sense. So if someone's 21 today.
Right.
I was still 21 more than 21 years ago.
Yes.
That's for you math people
but
out
when
there.
We were 21, when we were 21, it was
21, we didn't have email. I had email at work.
Yes.
It was a very functional thing. It was a very closed system. That's where I didn't have junk email.
At 21, we also had dial-up internet.
We had dial-up internet. That's why
so you had to wait to get on. And sometimes if you couldn't get on at home, you're like, ugh. You just wait and wait and wait. Do you remember how you hear it?
I do remember.
You hear that phone? Yes. Yes.
It's dialing up.
PC games, I don't even know. I'm trying to think when I got my first cell phone. I think I had to be like maybe in my 20s. Maybe 20?
I was 30.
Really?
Yeah, because I needed it for business. That's when I started real estate, was when I was 30.
Wow.
So
you didn't have a cell phone before then?
I didn't have a pager. I was unreachable.
I didn't have a pager either.
It's a fantasy now.
I always kind of thought I wanted a pager. Like, I watched Grey's Anatomy, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting a page. But, no, I don't.
Everyone just immediately needing you, and you run to a payphone, and it's not anything important. At the time, we used to joke that drug dealers needed payphones.
It's true.
Needed payphones, needed both payphones and pagers.
Yes.
But that wasn't true. That was just like someone wanted to be able to. And the technology was getting there. There was the bag phone that was enormous.
My boyfriend in high school had a bag phone. He had a Mustang GT, and his family was well-to-do, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!"
Yeah,
thing was big. It was a monster, and I actually don't even know that he ever used it.
Right, because
it
was like
$5
a minute. There was no reason to use something back then because they didn't have plans. I mean, when we were growing up, you had to pay to go You had to pay to go out of the area code on a phone call.
Yeah, long
and I remember,
distance.
Did you have to pay for texts? Like you got so many text messages.
Yes.
Yeah. So by
like
the
per letter or something like that, or I thought it was per.
Was it?
Was it per word or per letter?
I thought it was per text. So by the time I got on, they were just introducing free text messaging.
Oh, so I think I must have been. Let's see. I actually think I was probably like 22 or 23 when I got it, because I got married when I was 22, and I don't think we had it for the first. Maybe like for the first year or two, we didn't have cell phones. Wow.
Yeah, so
Technology's changed a lot.
It has drastically changed our perception of time, I think. And then also it changes opportunities in good ways, but also in bad ways.
Yeah.
So when I think of when you're a kid, time goes by so slow because you have that boredom element. You have to figure out things to do.
Well, you don't have the same amount of freedom, I think, that, you're restricted.
You're restricted, but also the thing you want to do, you have more time between things that you want to do.
Yes.
And so time goes by differently.
Yes.
And but I think now that kids have the technology that they have, I don't think time goes by the same way. I think they can lose 8 hours on an iPad in like the blink of an eye without any
But you think
attention.
about it today, they have you have 14, I don't know about 12, but I know that you've got 14 and 15-year-olds that Uber places. So they don't need their parents. A lot of times
But who pays for that? Their parents?
probably.
So is that why life has gotten so expensive? Is because parents have to pay to Uber? My mother would have never bought me an iced coffee out.
Right.
She would have never paid $3 or $6 or whatever would have been the equivalent of today's price for iced coffee back then, $2.
Yeah.
She didn't want to pay $2 to smoke, but she still did it.
Right.
Yeah. I remember that my parents telling me that when cigarettes I remember them being $1.85 and them threatening to go up to $1.98, and they said, that's it. When it goes to $2, I'm quitting. And then I remember paying $2.05 because they would give me $4.10 to buy both packs.
Yeah.
Because I used to buy their cigarettes, which was another difference back in the day.
We used to go down to the little country store at the end of our road and buy our friend's, her dad's cigarettes for $1.10.
Wow. Yeah, I remember
And
that
now
time
they're
period
like
too.
over $10
a pack.
Yeah.
And people still smoke.
Yep.
It's not a deterrent.
It hasn't. The cost of living is so high. I think that's a part of the reasons why too. Is I do think there's a little bit of price gouging going on for
100%.
No, everywhere, even utilities. But even think about
because all of this technology was supposed to bring it faster, quicker, cheaper.
right.
So now we're inundated. We're smothered by technology.
Well, think
And
about
it's
even the
more
technology
expensive than
now.
ever.
I don't know if it's past. I don't stay up in the car world, but a guy was telling us that they're going to start offering packages. So like they're going to put all the bells and whistles on all the new cars, like the leather seats, the cooling seats, the heated seats, all the bells and whistles, hands-free, but you have to pay for the service
Per month.
Yes.
So you
Like,
will
do I
have
to
the
pay
car.
for my AC.
So you'll pay for the car, and then anytime you want to use something, you have to pay for it. And if you don't make that payment, you also don't get that feature.
Right. If you want Bluetooth Connect, guess what? You're going to pay for that.
So it's nickel and diming.
Right.
Because
Are they going to make you pay for your windows? Your automatic windows?
it's amazing how it seems. And look at the prices of cars today.
But what gets me, I mean, I remember when we bought.
Are they giving you two features? Are they giving you the roll down and
right,
then the automatic?
Right, because are they going to, are you going to, are you going to charge me for my automatic window?
Right.
Or
Right.
charge you to open the sunroof? Come on, at what point does this is ridiculous? I understand the technology, but how much more money are you going to need to make off of people? You're just, at some point, it's kind of punishment. It's kind of like we don't care. We don't really care about the consumer
At all.
We're doing this for money. The prices of cars have gone up, and actually should look at that. The price of cars versus today, and where the economy is. I know materials and things. Materials. Look at the cost of housing.
Mm-hmm.
When my grandparents, I think they paid $5,000 or $6,000, something like that, for their first home. And now look at some of these kids, starting out, starter homes. What's the price point?
You're looking at $450,000.
Yeah, for a starter home.
Mm-hmm.
What gets you for when we got married? 96, so 99 we bought our house. We built our first house, and it was like 187, and we did
That was
sweat
land?
equity. Well, it was 5 acres, but I bought the 5 acres.
Okay.
And then I sold it to the builder, and then to use that as the equity. And then we did a lot of sweat equity. So no, actually, no, I'm wrong. It was 112. We did sweat equity, so our first mortgage was 87,000, and we were still like, oh my gosh,
How are we going to pay this off?
$100,000. That's so overwhelming. And now you cough it up. You just cough it out, and you're like,
a car is
Yes.
easily 100,000.
I remember when we bought our brand new Tahoe with the bells and whistles. Like, it was the new shape, it was everything. All the bells and whistles, had the little TV screens in the back, the captain chairs in the back. I think we paid top price was 33,000 for it. And I don't even know what does it be now? 80, 90 grand?
Yeah, somewhere in there. And what I was thinking is take the cost piece aside, just generationally, of course things change generation to generation. Hopefully you're making progress, right? Hopefully things are getting better. But there is, I had talked about this book maybe a year or two ago when it first came out. It was called The Anxious Generation. And it was talking about how kids have so much anxiety, and the rise of suicide rates for teenage girls is directly linked with social media platforms such as Instagram, TikTok, and all of those things. That depression in women is higher. Boys don't have it as young because they are more into the gaming than they are social media.
Yeah.
So they seem to be immune to that weird depression, suicide. But once boys hit 18 to 20 something, their suicide rate surpasses girls. So it's like, why do we have this anxious generation? So he kind of taps into that. But one of the things that I found really striking is when you say all of the things that they have and that they do, by default, they don't do other things. So if they spend 2 hours per day on a tablet, iPhone, computer, or smartphone or whatever, they will read 200 less books as children.
And you're not connecting with actual people in the world.
And
you're
that's
not
what they
playing with
say.
kids in the neighborhood, or you're not going to go for a walk. You're not moving your body. You're stuck in.
That's how many outdoor, literally how many hours they don't play outside. So right now, the
Or
average
just have
American,
the opportunity to be bored,
yes,
to come up with something in your imagination. I think that you have to have boredom, and you have to have that
That's where
stillness.
creativity, imagination comes in.
And I'm not willing to sit in this feeling anymore. Let's do something.
And if you don't believe that the technology is as bad as we're saying, you should read up on the people who create this technology, how they don't let their children on it.
Right.
So they build it for the world to monetize it, but not for theirs. So when you look into that, and one of the things that he says at the very beginning of the book is, would you take your 7-year-old to a strip joint, a sex worker's room, a slot, put them in front of a slot machine? It lists all these things, and they say, well, that's what the internet is. And before, we used to protect our children from it. If you're under 18, you can't go into a bar.
When we were
or
kids, the only way that you had access to porn was if it was in your parents' if they had a Playboy or I forgot the other one. Penthouse. If they had that, so you didn't really have any access to it, or somebody in the neighborhood's kids.
Right, or you had to go to the back of a video store when the videos came out to have But there was.
But see, we were
gate.
stupid enough. We were ignorant enough back then. I'm not going back there.
what I
I'm
think
gonna
is
get
so
busted,
funny,
man.
So now it says are you 18? And all you have to do is click yes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. What year were you born? Okay, do the math.
Right.
What I think is so interesting about that is, so that's just like when the airport says, hey, did you pack this bag yourself? Is there a bomb in there? No.
Absolutely, I did not.
No, I did not. You're relying on the person who's breaking the law to give you the correct answer for
correct, right.
the thing. So, yeah, so I was thinking what are 21-year-olds doing this summer, which involves, what are they doing this summer? I'm hoping they're going to concerts, and they're going camping and hiking and to the beach and to the rivers and to get on
road trips.
Yeah. I hope they're all doing that.
Hanging out together.
Yes. What were you doing at 21?
What was I doing at 21? I was a nanny. I was a nanny on the Cape, and I was engaged to be married. So I was working, and I was planning a wedding.
Can you imagine how many 21-year-olds right now are thinking like, "Oh, I want to be married."
Right. Well, I think they said like the average age right now, the average age in the United States for marriage is 30, 28 for women and 30 for men. And then in the 1950s, the average was 20 for women and 21 for men. And I think that's crazy.
And it's really interesting because my mother would have been, I'm trying to think. So I'm born in 72. She was 24. Okay. So she's a little older than that. But my father was in the military. So he didn't start dating and getting out really till he was 24.
Mm.
So when you look at the age difference between my mother and my father, you're like, oh my God, because they have 8 years between them.
Mm.
But he was financially helping his birth family, financially helping his mother care for the younger people. And I didn't realize that when I was younger,
Right.
that's what the reason was, that he wasn't stable enough to have enough money to start his
Right.
own family till he was 28. And my mother was 20 at the time.
Because he was taking care of other people. He was taking care of his other family.
And I didn't really know that as much until John's biological dad was talking about, he was 32, but he came over here at like 18 or 19 and worked and brought family over from Greece to here, set them up, had them have a house, got them jobs, got them a
Right.
car. Like, he was literally like the start of an empire.
But that's true. That generation, our parents' generation, still had that strong pull of
Family.
family and providing for family. Like, nobody left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a sense of that you're going to, take care of your elders, and you're gonna, financially support.
And if you're going to another place that has opportunity, you're not going to go there and party and leave all of us behind without this
Right.
same opportunity.
Right. There's not a lot of people that I've known that have moved that don't still feel that they're trying to bring their parents over, or they send money back, or
Yes.
because there's, and so I still think that there's some cultures that still hold on to that. I think about now, I don't feel like we still have the same family obligations. My mom and dad got married, I think she was 17, 18. She had just gotten, her birthday is like July, so she had just graduated high school, and I think she just turned 17. And my dad was a couple of years older. And they were, working, but that was, a small town in Virginia. That was the norm if you weren't going to go to college, and rich people went to college. So I think,
Right. Not everybody went to college. Now, despite the fact that it requires more money than it ever required,
right.
everybody's got to go to college, which is just such a shame. The trade schools are dying for people.
Well, and I think too, we were talking about how prices doesn't match. It doesn't match our income, and we're paying more and more for stuff. And so, even though we're making more money, we're not saving any money. We're not
Right.
in the ability to save any more money.
Yeah, it gets eaten up.
And I forgot what I was going to say about that.
Got all worked up that we're making more, but we're not saving more.
Well, yeah, we're not saving anymore, but we're also, I think that's where, so supply and demand, we're not having these peak kids going into trades anymore. And so I feel like I can understand why some of the trades have to raise their prices in order to keep up with the economy. And I guess that's the truth for everybody. They have to raise their prices to keep up with the economy. But what happens when we lose that whole? What happens when we lose that whole section? Those
We're all going to
trades,
be
because
working on our
nobody-
own AC.
Right. YouTube.
We're going to be getting those manuals out. We're going to be reading the manual with our morning coffee.
YouTube.
What
And
is this?
yes, buy stock in Home Depot
Yeah.
because everybody's going to go there.
Right.
Hey, did you know? I didn't
You know what I'm really sick of?
What?
For the last 20 or 30 years, Home Depot has always put women with screwdrivers and women fixing the ceiling fans and women painting, and that's all great, well and great, but now men don't think they need to do it. And women are still doing all kinds of other stuff that we don't like. Wait a minute. I'm glad we know how to do. Like, I think it's important to know how to do certain things as a
I do
person.
too. I actually
not
think yes.
necessarily women versus
Yes.
men.
I think it should
As
be.
a
I think we
person.
should bring back the dowry.
No.
No, just hear
Home
me
ec.
out. Just hear
Okay,
me out.
okay.
Well, home ec, a dowry, but you should have a list of like, hey, here's the in order to be in a relationship or in order to get married, you have to know how to build simple stuff. You have to learn how to fix small appliances.
Oh, okay. I
You
thought
fix your
dowry,
love.
like,
Well, you know what I
she's
mean.
worth 6 cows.
Yes,
She's
yes.
worth 6
But
cows.
so maybe
she's worth 3
dowry's
cows.
not the words. You know,
Okay.
I'll give you a goat.
You get 1 goat for this one. Please take this one. I'll give you 5 goats.
I'll give you cow milk for the rest of your life.
I'll give you 2 Tahoes and a boat that doesn't work.
Yes.
A jet ski that
A
doesn't
rusted
work.
out jet ski. An old dirt bike. A 350. I don't know what but and you should learn how you should have to know how to cook, and you should know how to have like a basic home ec skills and basic repair skills.
Well, that used to be taught in high schools. It used to be home economics
Yeah.
and shop. And everybody had to take it. And
Yeah, I
my
think-
mother has some of the funniest stories ever as she's setting stuff on fire in her home ec.
See, we
class.
didn't
I didn't have that.
I didn't take home ec. They did offer it. I took like a health occupation, like an OSHA health occupation, some kind of a
That
But my
wouldn't be
kids-
bad either because we could all use, like,
but my
what's wrong
kids,
with us?
My kids had to take a they had to take a home ec course, but it's only like it's only for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, we
So
need
they
more.
do trimesters, so they only had to do it for like 1 trimester. And then
Better than nothing, though.
oh yeah, it's definitely better than nothing. But I don't even think they do shop. I think Nashua does. They do like
I think Derry does, too.
Nash, and I don't know if it's shop like woodworking and stuff like that, but I do know that they have a program where kids for like automobiles where they want to be like they have a trade school kind
Like
of a thing.
mechanic?
Yeah. And so some of the kids from my kids' high school would go over there and do some of their classes. So they were split it up half and half. If you know that you're going to go into the trades, then they will go half a day there. So I thought that was cool. But I think that
So I was
it
at
should
the
all be mandatory.
Yeah, so I was at the supermarket, and the cashier was a young man, and the bagger was a young man, and they were talking because the cashier was going to college, but the bagger was not. And his mother said, well, you have till whatever date to figure out what it is you want to do. And so he was like, man, just go to college. He's like, I don't think I want to go to college. And I was like, yeah, did you like high school? And he's like, not especially. I'm like, then don't go to college.
Right.
It is high school times 10.
Yes.
Don't, like, you think you don't like doing a paper now. You have like 5 papers to do a week. Don't go there.
Yeah, don't
and
do
I
that.
said, what do you like? He's like, well, I told my mom I was going to get my motorcycle license this summer. I said, you should look into becoming a motorcycle mechanic. You fix them, then you'll have enough money, and then you can buy really cheap ones and fix them up. And he was like, I think I would like working on motorcycles. And I was like, well, you never know until you try.
Right.
So we were going through this whole thing, and then he's like bagging my stuff, and he's like, thanks for all the life advice. And I was like, just throwing it out there. You don't have to take
That's
it's not
awesome.
advice. It's just
Because I think sometimes our kids get stuck. Or I do think that
you only have as many options as the people around you tell you about. So if the people around you don't know, you could be a tugboat operator for $200,000 a year and be
Yeah.
out in the water. You can do
yeah.
like, what do you like?
Right.
What do you
And start
like?
looking in that area of what you like. But I don't think that's what I don't think. We're always forcing our kids to being like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do? Not who do you want to be?
And also parents,
What do you want to do?
no offense to all your parents out there, because you know I'm a childless spinster. But you all have these expectations where I don't want to been throwing my life into this kid. I don't want them to say that they're a plumber. That's not impressive enough
Right,
to me.
right.
Or parents put expectations on their kids of, I sacrificed everything so you could be a plumber.
Or, you know,
Or I
your dad
sacrificed
was a doctor and your mom was a doctor and your grandmother was a doctor, your dad, blah, 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 blah. on a
Or
lineage,
we
a
don't have
lawyer,
any
or-
doctors.
right.
We need a doctor in this family. We're all going to die of the gout later. You know? Like, you know, we are all guilty of that. We all have
Yes.
expectations. And an unlived life of a parent is almost torture for a kid because the parent then uses that unlived life
Yeah.
in that, like, well, my child better.
Trying to put their life or their unfulfilled parts of their younger years onto their kids.
Yeah, because they know how detrimental an unlived life is.
Yeah. So what were you doing at 21?
Well, I was going back and I was like, thinking like, oh yeah, my young fun childhood. And I was like, well, wait a second.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, I worked for the FAA, which was fun because I was working in an industry, aviation, and I worked, listen to the schedule. I'm tired just saying the schedule out loud. I worked Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30. Then on Friday night at 5, I went to the Museum of Science and I closed, went out to bars because I was officially 21. And although I had been going to bars since I was 18 with a fake ID, I was going to the bars that wouldn't let me in with my fake ID because they had good bouncers. So I switched bars. Then Saturday morning, I went back to the museum for when it opened. I had to be there half an hour before it opened till 5.
Wow.
Then I went out with my friends on Saturday night. Then Sunday morning, I cleaned office buildings until noon, went over my grandparents' house to check in with family so they knew I was alive, and then went back to work on Sundays from 5 to 10 back at the Museum of Science. And then I flew after work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday.
Wow.
And then in the summer, I was going out at night, too.
Like no time to sleep.
I did not sleep.
And you never even gave yourself any downtime either. Just go, go, go.
Well, the funny thing was, I used to go flying. So my roommate at the time said, I know the days you've been flying because I come home and you're sleeping your clothes on the couch. Because I was so exhausted. And my brain was like, that's as much information as we can take in. If you don't shut down and let us
We're gonna shut you
file
down.
this down. And there's a picture of me in one of the airplane hangars sleeping on the couch. Because we had done aerobatics training so that you could do the stalls better, like in a better plane, just to see what real stalling like.
I'm glad you didn't stall when we were when we went up.
I didn't do that to you. But when I think back to the schedule, I'm like, I know I had fun in there, but But
time is different then. I think time was
is
different
different.
then. You didn't have cell phones. You didn't have anything. It's like
check with email. I didn't have to answer a phone.
you just had to be present.
I just had to be present and doing the work that I liked every day going to work. I didn't dread any of the work days.
Yeah.
I liked going to work because I was learning new stuff. So I also, being at work wasn't like counting down the minutes until I wasn't at work anymore.
Just something that was like, oh.
Yeah. So
But
that
that's
year.
I kind of feel like that's where we
But I was like,
are.
I can't remember. I mean, I went to the Kiss 108 concert, I'm sure, that year. And I went, like, we started to go to Rhode Island instead of the Cape that year. So I wasn't in the Cape at the same time as you. I was thinking, I was like, was I ever in the Cape at the same time she was? But
What
I
years were you
wasn't.
down there?
More like 18, 19, and 20. And then by 21 and 22, I was going to Newport, Rhode Island. We had in Martha's Vineyard because my boss at the FAA had a house there that he would let us go down to. And then my friend babysat for a family that had a house there. So we started doing Martha's Vineyard for something different. Plus, we had free places to stay. Gosh. We were not into paying for things.
Right. Gosh, we took our bikes years ago. We took our bikes on the ferry over to Martha's Vineyard with all of our camping gear, and we would tent because we couldn't afford and back then, there's not a lot of places to stay because they didn't do Airbnbs.
Right.
You had to rent a place in a hotel, and it was, price gouging as it then, but
also in it's skeevy.
yeah.
Like I have, I'm almost an agoraphobe. I could almost be. And hotels could almost freak me out anyways.
Yeah.
Because you're like, how many people have done what in this bed with,
Right.
the
And
television?
do they really change? How many times do they wash the comforter?
Right.
I'm just saying, I don't think the comforter, and even present day, I don't think the comforter gets washed very often.
I'm pretty sure the comforter doesn't get washed. But one of the things that I was thinking of when I was like going back to the time period, I'm like, what was happening in 1993, for example? And this is going to seem crazy, but Palestine and Israel went to the Oslo Accord for peace.
Yeah. Wow.
So when people say things like, "Oh, it's so," like all I hear out of everyone's mouth,
Somebody's calling us.
Someone's calling. Okay, hold on.
I'm going to Google while you're
Allstate
doing
Insurance.
that. Oh,
I'm not picking it.
why do they do that?
Oh, well, maybe it's
On
someone from
our-
work. Hold on.
Oh, who does Allstate? Let's see what else was happening.
But what I was thinking is so many people, every podcast, everything, right? Our radio show. We try not to say it all the time because we know you are hearing it from every place else. But it's so crazy out there. Things are so crazy. It's so different. It's so crazy. It's like, actually, some of the stuff is exactly the same. Right? It's exactly the same. We're trying
Yes,
to bring those
yes.
two groups of people to the table.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I read it on either Google or Wikipedia. And it said that, but it didn't acknowledge Palestine as an actual true state, which I thought was interesting.
Oh.
And I'm like, but you know what I thought of? At 21, I would hear the news, but it didn't feel like it affects me like today.
Yeah, see, I never listened to the news of that.
When
Like,
you
and
heard the
somebody
news.
told me.
Yeah, when you heard the news, now everyone's feeling like every single thing they hear is actually affecting them personally.
Yes.
And that is, I think maybe, and you can tell me if you think the same, but I think that's a function of our world getting smaller, where we have, that was the first time I was getting news all the time because we used to have to watch CNN for plane issues across the country, and they would go there. And we would also watch the weather on
Yep.
there because we were always concerned because we were also in charge of coordination with air traffic and all this other stuff. So we were watching the news for an aviation component. But I remember the Lorena Bobbitt trial
Oh my gosh, yes.
was reported. And I remember standing there, and one of the guys I worked with, his name was Barry. And I remember he's like, man, these guys are amazing. Look they found it in a field. As like hundreds of men what? She cut off what? Okay, go. Where did she
That's
throw
probably
it?
the biggest search party.
Where did she throw it? Somewhere off 95. Have men canvassing the whole highway. Just have them go.
See, I had to put some salt on it, like, and dissolve it like a snail.
But I
Ain't
remember
finding that.
that being like the story of
Put in a
this-
concrete boot and sink it in the Charles.
And I'm like, who
I
finds
mean, literally, if you were going to cut off somebody's pee-pee, would you just throw it in a field?
I would never cut off a pee-pee.
I know, but I'm just
That
saying.
didn't even.
I'm just saying, if you did, what would you do with it? How would you discard of the body? The body.
the piece, the member.
Yes.
You know, I think that's too hands-on for me.
Oh, come on, play with me.
I would shoot it off.
Doesn't matter
Shoot a
how
hole. Just shoot a hole, and then I don't have to worry about disposal or disposition.
I don't know that I could ever do it, but I'm just saying, if you had to get to a point where you were going to dispose it, what'd she do? Roll down the window and just like chuck
Yes,
it?
she rolled down the window and chucked it, and they found it in a field and reattached it.
Did they tell her? I mean, did she tell them where they found it?
Yes.
Like, this is where I threw it?
Like off the side of a road in a field, and those men, they can't find bodies of hikers,
Right.
but they found 3
Months.
inches in a field.
I'm surprised the
That was
birds
probably
didn't get
like-
it.
I know. That was like, what is this?
I'm surprised it didn't pick the eye out.
But what a
Oh, it's
weird,
terrible,
like,
yes.
you know, and at the time, we had never heard of such a thing
I know, and how did that make the news?
because
Like, there's some weird, creepy stuff that happens now, and it
doesn't
never
make
makes the news.
Right. But that made the news. I think it was because I don't know why it actually made the news, but it was a horrifying summer
Yeah.
for like, so when people say, oh, things were weird then too.
Yes.
And then I look at my mother's generation, right? When she's 21 years old, she's newly married. She had just finished working for MIT in conjunction with NASA to put the man on the moon. She was
Isn't that crazy?
and but when I talk about the time period, my mother was like, ugh, it was hippies everywhere. So my mother was not hippie material. Didn't own any kind of hippie outfits. My mother wore fake hair extensions. Like my mother was back then, you could wear, it's called a fall. So you had all these big giant pieces of hair that you would put up. So you'd have like big high
Yes, beehives.
and you'd have all kinds of
Aquanut.
yeah, and then she would put them in and have them all flowing down her shoulders. I'm like, oh my God, you had such long hair. She's like, that wasn't my hair. So, and she loved getting dressed up. She loved wearing heels. She wasn't about not shaving her armpits. So she felt like she didn't fit in with her generation because she didn't have that free love, hippie, Charles Manson girlfriend.
Yeah.
Not all hippies were Charles Manson's girlfriend.
Well, so listen.
Let me just be really sterile.
So back late 60s. So what was going on? Long hot summer. It was the racial unrest where there were a lot of riots in Detroit and Newark. The Vietnam War was still going on. It was escalating, promoting protests, demonstrations at the Pentagon. Culturally, the Summer of Love in San Francisco marked a high point of notable events. Let's see. Thurgood Marshall's appointment, Apollo 1 tragedy.
I was actually going to look up
the first human heart transplant happened in 1967.
Wow. That's so long ago, actually.
I think
think that kind of medical advance.
Yeah, we really are very new in some of our technology as far as like advancements and.
Yeah, like prosthetics have been around, but they're so much better today.
My question is, like, we have so much technology. How come we can't, like, find a way to get hooked up to a machine and, like, filter your blood?
We can.
Like, clean
we
it.
do.
But why don't we do that, like, as a physical, like a regular, normal thing?
Because it's painful. My understanding is painful.
Well, it just seems like it's got to go in. If it can go in, if you goes out and it goes through a machine, it's kind of like when you do, like, platelets.
Yes, so they do it for blood when they do blood transfusions, and when you have certain types of leukemias and stuff, they do a treatment. And then it's like dialysis for kidneys where they're cleaning the waste from your body.
Yeah, but why can't you, like, remove the plaque from, like, high cholesterol? And why couldn't you move
that's
these
a really good idea.
things? Like, why couldn't you do that?
I think you
do
could.
Valve replacements and...
I think it's probably a cost-benefit thing at first. Like, well, we have this drug and it costs $29.
But our healthcare system is not set up to be
proactive.
No.
No.
It's always about preventative because that's where you're going to make your money.
Yeah, so I swear that my doctor's like, just a couple more blood work, and we'll get to talk about diabetes medicine instead of let's get you to lower it so you don't get on diabetes medicine. So I think that's kind of how it happened.
Yes.
But that summer I was thinking of, like, when I was 21, I must have been singing in the car, I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston, because I felt like that was never not on the radio.
Yeah.
During that time period. You had to stop listening to the radio because it was
So,
on so much.
when our parents were 21, like 21, around that age, like the civil rights movement, that affected our whole country. Like even just pockets. But did we have anything like that? That affected us personally on like civil rights movements. We were experiencing it. What's her name? Rosie. That what's her name? Sit on the back of the bus.
Yep. So
Like, in restaurants, you were confronted with that.
I think we had that with gay and AIDS in the 80s. So it felt like during that time there were a lot of court cases that were trying to figure out what's their privacy, HIPAA privacy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it came around in that time period, but I remember distinctly working in a dentist office and then the AIDS patients coming in, and I'm saying, well, we know it's transferred by blood and saliva, and now we're working on them. How do we protect ourselves against catching it? Because we quite didn't know, like, it's in saliva, but you have to put it in your saliva.
There was a lot that we didn't know about it.
The transference of it. And then as people get sick and, like, not working, or if they're sick and they're going to look for an apartment. So there was a lot of stuff making sure that they kept their rights. Just because they were getting sick from a condition or a disease didn't mean that they didn't have the same rights as everybody else. So no, it wasn't civil rights, but it put, at the time, it seemed, and I could be wrong, my memory of it could be like conflated, but it seemed like at the time it was really about like helping the gay community move forward with the same amount of rights, especially because it seemed like.
But see, I don't remember that, and I don't remember it the same. Like, so if
okay,
you're
you
80s,
tell me how you were.
Well, no, I didn't even. I mean, the AIDS thing, yes. But like gay rights and things like that, I don't know. I didn't watch news, but we were, I didn't graduate high school until 91. So it was never an issue. Like it was something I was unaware of. But maybe that's just
So
maybe difference between being in a city and being in a
Yes.
rural and
Or my mother was an electrolysis, and we had lots of transgender people coming into her office. So back before it was popular or mainstream or anything, we were with that community a lot. And one or two were always in our house for the holidays because their family had ostracized them because they were making a change and stuff.
wow, that's so nice.
So I might have been part of, and then one of my mother's patients was a man who became a woman, but she was married to a man who was gay. Obviously, like,
Right.
A very overtly gay, like not hiding it.
Right.
So people were confused because they're like, isn't he gay, but isn't he married to a woman? So they couldn't find an apartment. So we put them in one of our buildings. They actually lived below us. So maybe that was in my vocabulary because I was around people who were
Yeah.
being on the outskirts of that.
I was in a small southern town in the middle of the woods that, like, no.
Yeah.
You never, looking back now, like, oh, so-and-so was gay, so-and-so was gay. But you, looking back then, you don't even know if they knew that they were gay.
Right.
It's
Right.
just that was something that you did not talk about.
See, in my world, everybody was talking about it because we were also working in a community that we actually, like, it was an embraced community.
Yeah.
Because you were meeting them, they would come and they would get their beard removed.
Yeah.
And they would be on hormones, and then they would be transitioning. And that's why it was such a different world back then. And I think we need to go back to the way that was, because you had to be in therapy with someone for a year. You had to dress as the opposite sex that you wanted to. So if you wanted to go from girl to guy or guy to girl, you had to dress as the opposite sex for a year. You had to, then you could begin hormones. But one of the reasons why they wanted you to go to therapy was they wanted to make sure you didn't hate yourself because
That you're
you were
mentally
abused.
prepared.
But that you were abused, so you think you hate your gender, but really you're hating yourself because you were
Right.
molested by a parent or like
Somewhere
some
along the way that
major
you had an
stuff
emotional, trauma.
that if you worked through that, you wouldn't
Yeah.
hate yourself, and then your hatred may be attributed that to that
Well,
you
it's
were in a
kinda-
different sex, or it could be attributed to that
Yeah.
you've had some hard things in life. And before we go lopping off Bobbitt style your parts that we can't
Yeah.
undo, that there almost seemed like there was a medical compassion that let's make sure this process is done properly.
Yes.
Not you're giving some 16-year-old drugs
Right.
that will make them infertile because they think
You
they're
don't
the wrong
go to,
sex.
you don't just freely give it out at Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
But I think there was a lot more protecting of mental health. I feel like we talk about it, but how much do we incorporate, even in our school systems, about just asking the right questions about, if you're going to be this, why do you want to be this? Why do you have to be so defensive about it? Well, yeah, because it feels like it might be a
because
good idea.
I'm
or-
always attacked. I'm always
Yes.
and it's like, okay, let's
and that's feel who, like, well, I always feel like I'm a man trapped in a woman's body. Like, why do you feel that way? I do think that you should bring back counseling and things like that. Not to say that you're making the wrong choice, but hey, somebody just to help hold your hand and walk you through this.
I think everyone could use a good therapist.
Oh yes, absolutely.
No matter what you're going through.
That's why I have you, my best friend.
That's right. And we have our friends.
But to be able to have those communications, we don't have those, we don't have that kind of communication style anymore, because I think there's a lot of people attach shame and blame, and you're always comparing to social media and like, I should be this, or they have this, or it's always a comparison game. So
And
it's like,
stuff
I
is
don't
coming
want.
from the outside so much.
Yes.
The noise that you're hearing, what are you hearing from the inside? Do you even hear anything, or are you just taking in
But does
stimulus?
it make you feel vulnerable to actually reach out to somebody and say, hey, I'm struggling with something right now? Instead of, I'm going to go march on DC and I'm going to raise my flag and I'm going to scream to the world because this feels right. It feels right in this moment because you're angry about it, or you've been hiding it, or you don't. I don't feel like we've created safe spaces.
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds kind of meh, but I do. I don't think we've created because, oh my gosh, they posted this on social media, so I don't feel like I'm safe to say this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think
Because we are always putting out a highlight reel.
right, and we do a lot of virtual signaling. So the person who says, puts the sign up for something, hate has no home here. How are you really living your life every day?
Right.
I don't care
Right.
about your lawn sign
Right.
for $9. Not impressed
Right.
at all. I'm not impressed at so many things. How are you living your life?
Right.
How much compassion do you bring to your spouse? How much compassion do you bring to your
Are you
children?
being
your
about
parents?
it, or are you talking about it?
Yes.
Because I feel like the lawn signs are like a little passive aggressive of like, and sometimes they're like the biggest offenders.
Mm-hmm. And like when people have the lawn sign that says no human is illegal, and it's like humanity's not illegal,
Right.
but citizenry. Countries do have
citizenship.
citizenry. If I go into Sweden and be like, if I go to Canada,
I'm going to move to Italy, but I'm still going to be an illegal.
I'm going to go to Canada and be like, I live here. I'm here. I'm not illegal. They're going to be like,
Right.
yes, you are. You're not our citizen.
You're
Get out.
illegal when you don't go through the proper channels, and then you try to take something that's not yours to begin with.
Yeah, so don't put the sign, no human is illegal. Yeah, no human is illegal. That doesn't make any sense. Humanity is not illegal. What is citizenry? Like, don't change. And that's another thing that I think. I was looking up something. I'm like, oh my God, that language isn't even we don't use the language in the same way anymore.
Like, what do you mean?
I was trying to see if I took a screenshot of it because, and you guys you don't have to be patient with me. You can be like, get off. Oh, I did write down that
Zibbit.
I'm on stage 2 of glassware, where now I have to wear glasses and take a picture with my phone if the lighting's not perfect.
Yes. And you have to magnify
And
it.
then I have to magnify it, so I might need a change in my prescription. I did want to let you all know that I'm at stage 2 of glass wearing. 1.5, I'm at stage 2. And then, let's see. I wanted to see if I could find the word.
I might have to be. I think I'm probably stage 2 too. I mean, most of mine are like, I think 125. But if I need to do like, if I'm going to work on my cuticles or anything like that, I need like a 1.75. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
But
So
it does hurt my eyes.
I
if
wanted to pop a zit on the side of my face, and so I took a picture of it and sent it to my friend Carolyn because she's an esthetician. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I want to pop this. And she said, don't. I said, I can't because it's right where my glasses would lay, and I can't do it without my glasses. I'm in a quandary. When people look at me like, why didn't she pop that? The answer is, it's right with my glasses.
You need to get one of the big magnifying mirrors.
I am. But then I see everything, and then I'm traumatized.
I know.
for
Then you're
days.
like, oh my gosh, I thought I plucked my eyebrows.
Oh no, my pores are the size of oranges.
My beard's growing in.
My beard is enormous. My upper lip hair. Get me a razor
Pronto.
immediately.
You just call
Why
from
did
the
no
other
one
room.
why did no one tell
Right.
me? So I can't
Well,
look at that
The
magnifying.
good thing is, if you hang out with people who are on the same age, they won't see it either.
I know, but then no one's telling us, and we're going. And the young kids are like, "Did you see that upper lip hair?"
You're like, "Ooh."
It was like walrus whiskers. Like just trim those.
She's gonna get that stuck in her teeth if she
She's
doesn't
gonna
watch out.
If she wonders why there's a hair in her mouth, it's her upper lip hair.
That's hers, man. Those little curlies in the sink. They're mine. I'm so sorry.
Right? So there's a benefit and a detriment to not being able to see them.
Right. I'm telling you, you need to invest in one of the big mirrors
Ugh.
because it's really good for that. But then you just have to have self-control, and you have to be like, okay, I'm going in for one, and that's it.
But you
Maybe
don't look
two.
around the rest of the face?
Maybe one or two.
Okay, but don't the wrinkles look extra big there too?
Well, when you're like looking, if you're trying to pop a zit on the side and you're looking like this, so your eyes, so you're really kind of just focused on that one spot,
Okay.
and then you just get in and walk out.
Get in and get out.
Get out. And
Maybe
get
I
out.
need to be supervised. Maybe you'll
Yes.
have to be in the room with me.
I can do that.
And be like, you got 3 minutes, and then I'm taking that magnifying mirror away.
I'm gonna get it for you.
And then, okay, I'll watch you. But go get me a razor. Because apparently I need to shave my upper lip.
I think that we could just electrolyze my whole body.
So I have, now they do laser. So much less painful. So I have
But does it really work?
laser, yeah.
Like, does it come back? Like, is it baby bottom smooth?
So I did my underarms, and they said it took 6 visits, and 3 visits I had no hair. But every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I feel a hair. And she's like, yeah, we probably didn't. You were supposed to come for 6. You only came for 3. We're not done. And I was like, oh. So I got to go back because I can feel like every once in a while, I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Wait,
I have
did you
a hair
have
in
it
the-
done recently?
A couple of years ago. I don't
I
know why
wanna
I
go.
didn't do it. I don't know why I didn't have my mother do it for free. Well, I know why, because electrolysis is hot and
Oh.
like the heat with that needle is a lot. But I should have had my underarms done. I hate shaving.
Yeah, I do too.
I like shaving my legs because it also exfoliates them.
Especially
and
when you get
apparently
that
I'm going to like
pocket.
shaving my face. It's going to make it so baby smooth.
Oh, I would electrolysis my face. And my arms and my legs.
So having a mother that's electrolysis, it was like free thing. But she was always like, no, you need some hair places. Like I want her to do my upper lip.
Yeah.
Because I was bleaching it. And she said, no, because you do need hair there or you're going to have that constantly shiny, because it needs to absorb. You're not supposed to have no hair there. So she was funny about that.
For real?
For real.
I think a lot of people shave
you learn
their...
something
Yes.
every day. Lisa and Robin on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. We will be back after these messages. Stay tuned.